Hi, everyone. My name is Kyla Zemplinski, and I am the Darlington County 4-H Extension Agent. I am very delighted to be reading to your class today this book provided to us by our friends at the South Carolina Farm Bureau. It is a book called Auntie Yang's Great Soybean Picnic. It was written by Jenny Lowe with illustrations done by her sister, Beth Lowe. Little information about the author. She is a retired computer science professor who is an immigrant from China. She is the mother of 2 grown children, and she lives with her husband in Eugene, Oregon. Her sister is an award-winning ceramic artist who has received numerous awards and is an art professor at the University of Montana. Both of these girls immigrated to the United States from China back in the 1940s and 1950s, very long time ago. And they settled in the Midwest, and they have decided to write a book to describe us about just how important soybeans are, not just to their culture, but to our culture as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Page 1. I'm gonna share. So, the last part of the trip to Auntie Yang's always took forever. In the back seat of the family car, my little sister Pei and I peered through the window, watching impatiently for the familiar red house to come into the view. We hadn't seen our cousins in more than a month. Will Ginger and Pei still be awake when we get there? I asked. Don't worry, Ginny. We will get to their house before bedtime, Mama replied. And Auntie Yang will fix us a delicious snack, said Baba. At last we turned down Auntie and Uncle Yang's long gravel driveway. Down low, Pei and I shouted. We're finally here. We tumbled out of the car into the humid September night. Crickets chirped noisily as our relatives welcomed us with shouts, laughter, and hugs all around. Auntie and Uncle Yang lived just outside Chicago, and our family lived a 3-hour drive away in a small town in Indiana. Auntie Yang was one of Mama's 5 sisters. Like Mama and Baba, Auntie and Uncle Yang had come across the ocean to study at universities in the United States. They had all planned to return to their hometowns after graduating, but had to stay because the war in China made it too dangerous to go back. For a long time, Mama was homesick. She missed her family trips to West Lake, her older brother's stories, her younger brother's tricks, and all her favorite Chinese foods, from simple boiled soybeans to fancy 8 treasures rice. There were very few Chinese families in the Midwest back then, so Mama and Auntie Yang made sure our 2 families visited often. Mama said she wanted us cousins to grow up as close as 4 soybeans in a soybean pod. This is them seeing their aunt and uncle. That weekend in September began like all of our visits. On Saturday morning, Mama and Auntie Yang made the 4 of us sit still for Chinese lessons. Afterward, Mama helped us with our watercolor paintings, and Auntie Yang showed us how to fold paper into the shape of boats, monkeys, and rabbits. In the afternoon, the grown-ups continued their endless games of mahjong in the living room while we ran outside to play in the big backyard. I was the leader as we trumped through the high grass with crochet mallets to protect us from any dragons we might meet. There's them conquering a dragon. That's cool. That evening, it was my turn to help Auntie Yang and Mama fix dinner. I did my best to fold the pork and spinach dumplings into perfectly pleated moon-shaped pieces. I blushed with pride when Auntie Yang complimented me on my work. Jenny, you are becoming a very good Chinese cook, she said. Soon it was time for dinner. Chi fa lei, Auntie Yang called, time to eat. As everyone gathered around the table, Auntie Yang laid its steamily boiling dumplings onto our plates. Then the four of us had a contest to see who can eat the most. Pei and Ginger ate 6 dumplings, and Ping ate 7, but I ate 9 dumplings and won the contest. That's them making dinner. Who's ready for a Sunday drive? Uncle Yang called up the stairs the next morning. Both families, all 8 of us, piled into our family's old car. I got to sit in the front seat between Baba and Uncle Yang, who sang screechy Chinese opera songs as Baba drove. Pei, Ginger, and Ping squeezed together in the back with Mama and Auntie Yang. We passed acres and acres of tall corn stalks. Corn, corn, and more corn. Suddenly, Auntie Yang cried out, "What is that?" She was pointing to the field of leafy green plants. It looks like ma do, she said, soybeans. Couldn't be ma do, said Uncle Yang. This is America, not China. But it was ma do. Auntie Yang had discovered a soybean farm tucked among the cornfields. In Illinois, soybeans were grown to feed cows and pigs, not people. But in China, soybeans were one of the most important foods of all. Auntie Yang saw a farmer in the soybean field. "Stop the car!" she shouted. Baba pulled to the side of the road. Auntie quickly hopped out and ran over to the farmer. "Excuse me, sir, may we have some of your soybeans?" "Sure you can. Do you have a little pig at home?" he asked. Auntie Yang laughed and shook her head. A few minutes later, she ran back to the car, hugging a huge bundle of soybean plants. Clusters of gray-green pods dangled and swayed from branches. Quickly, we all climbed out of the car to gather bunches of soybeans from the field. Then we all packed them into the trunk. The fuzzy soybean pods tickled my chin and cheeks and made me giggle. That's them. When we got home, Auntie Yang and Mama started heating a huge pot of water on the stove. Then they began to prepare stir-fried dishes to go with the soybeans. Pei, Ginger, and Ping and I piled the soybean plants on the table. We picked off the pods and plucked them into a big yellow bowl. Once the water began to boil, Auntie Yang added salt and dropped the pods in carefully. In 15 minutes, the soybeans were done. Auntie Yang took her bamboo ladle and scooped some pods into the bowl. Then she and Mama taught us the best way to eat soybeans. First, put the whole pod in your mouth, holding the end of it between your fingertips, Auntie instructed. Then gently close your lips and pull the pod straight out, sucking all the salty juice. The soybeans will pop out one by one, all in a row onto your tongue, Mama said. Most soybean pods have 3 beans, some have 2, and few have one lonely bean in the pod, Auntie Yang told us. But if you get a 4-bean pod, then you are a lucky Chinese American girl, added Mama. And if you happen to get a 5-bean pod, well, you are more fortunate than the Emperor of China, said Auntie Yang. That's them. The soybeans were still steaming hot when Mama and Auntie Yang called everyone to dinner. Pei, Ginger, Ping, and I helped carry the food outside, and Baba and Uncle Yang joined us at the picnic table. Back home, Baba said, we eat soybeans 1,000 different ways: salted, dried, pickled, and fried. But we like them best boiled just like this, said Mama with a big smile on her face. Soybeans are the greatest discovery in America, I said, and everyone cheered. At the end of dinner, our plates were covered with mountains of limp, empty soybean pods piled in as high as the famous Yellow Mountain in Uncle Yang's hometown province in China. That was our family's first soybean picnic. The next summer, Auntie Yang talked to the farmer again. This year, I need to pick a few more soybeans. Is that okay? Sure. Did you buy another pig? Another little pig? Auntie Yang just laughed. That year, Auntie Yang invited 6 Chinese families from around Chicago to come and enjoy our Illinois soybeans. The day of the picnic, the 4 of us cousins waited outside, waiting for the guests to arrive. By 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the Changs, Liaos, Cus, Tangs, and Lians and Lus had arrived. Luckily, there were lots of kids just our ages who all spoke Chinese as badly as we did. We ate soybeans with our new Chinese American families and played outside until dark when the fireflies came out. The year after that, word had spread all over Chicago. Soybean picnic at the Yang's house Saturday afternoon. Auntie Yang went to the farmer again. This year, I need a lot of soybeans to feed my big family in Chicago. We come from China, where soybeans are one of our favorite foods. If we have a part of your crop, we will pay you for the soybeans. On Saturday, 30 Chinese families drove up the Yang's gravel driveway. Everyone hurried to the farmer's field to pick soybeans. It was hard work, but we quickly filled a big trailer with mounds of soybean plants. Back at Auntie and Uncle Yang's house, while the grown-ups set up the picnic tables, we played hide and seek and Red Rover and flew kites with the other kids. We couldn't wait for the food to be ready. While the soybeans were cooking, the mothers brought out dozens of delicious Chinese dishes they had prepared earlier. Everything smelled so good. There were steaming platters of Chinese meatballs with cabbage and bread threads, and spicy tofu with ground pork and salted black beans. Pei and I squealed when we saw a whole head of the steamed fish with its cloudy eye staring straight up from the plate. Finally, everyone sat down to eat. We ate and ate some more, our chopsticks clicking against the sides of the porcelain rice bowls. The soybean feast went on late into the night. As the last family drove away, our new friends called out the car window, Auntie Yang, thank you for the great soybean picnic. The next day, Mama and Auntie Yang sat down together to write their weekly letter to their family in China. We have made many new Chinese friends in America since we discovered soybeans here. We're not as homesick as we used to be, but still miss you all very much and wish you could come eat soybeans with us in Chicago. The soybean picnic grew and grew until it was too big to be held at Auntie and Uncle Yang's backyard. Eventually, more than 200 Chinese mothers, fathers, grandparents, and children gathered at the city park for the annual soybean event. By then, Pei, Ginger, Ping, and I were away at college, and some years we could not attend, but the soybean picnic kept going. Then one summer, Mama and Auntie Yang's dream came true. All their brothers and sisters came from China for their first ever trip to the United States. We watched as a big silver airplane with striped wings rode so slowly to the gate and waited eagerly for our aunties and uncles to appear through the doorway. Wan Ying, Wan Ying, we shouted as we saw them. Welcome to Chicago. Welcome to our home. By now, Auntie and Uncle Yang were in their 70s. Although everyone in the older generation had gray hair and oldest uncle walked with a cane, they were as funny and noisy together as the four of us cousins were when we were kids. That night, they chatted and laughed for hours. I understood just enough Chinese to recognize the familiar stories Mama used to tell us about their trips to Westlake and the tricks that youngest uncle used to play. The next day, Auntie Yang made a special trip to buy soybeans from the farmer's son. So here they are greeting the family at the airport. Soon, all the aunties and uncles were squeezed around Auntie and Uncle Yang's dining room table, ready to taste American soybeans. Pei, Ginger, Ping, and I crowded behind them. Then we started to eat, squeezing the soybeans onto our tongues and sucking the salty pods. Yum! Pretty soon the mountain of empty soybean pods reached even higher than the Yellow Mountain. Suddenly Auntie Yang stood up, waving an extra long soybean pod. Inside, 5 plump soybeans were cozily lined up in a row. Look, look, she cried. I'm luckier than the Emperor of China. You are luckier than the Emperor of Chicago, too, said oldest uncle. Everyone laughed and shouted. Mama squeezed my hand, and I knew she wasn't homesick anymore. Jenny, do you remember the summer Auntie Yang discovered soybeans in Illinois? She asked. I will never forget it, I said, but today is Auntie Yang's greatest soybean picnic ever. And that's the end of the novel. So I hope you guys really enjoy this book. Some of the most important principles I hope you take away from this book are the importance of remembering your roots and your family. Thank you again for letting me read to your classroom. It was a great honor. Hopefully you guys enjoy the lesson plan I sent your teacher. It contains a lot of fun vocabulary words, background information about soybeans, and a very fun hands-on activity you guys can do easily at home or in your classroom. It does contain some discussion questions that you guys as a class or with your parent or with your friends or your parents will need to sit down and think about. Thank you again for letting me read this book to you guys. I hope to see you guys again soon. Bye.